So to start, I thought we could just talk about sugar basics. So we always hear about like the different kinds of sugars and like I just have this really quick question. Is carbs just a different word for sugar?
Carbs, so sugar is a type of carbohydrate, but carbohydrates encompass anything that are made up of monosaccharide units, which a monosaccharide is like a glucose, for example, or like galactose. So like fiber is a carbohydrate. Starches are carbohydrate, and those are made, they're complex carbohydrates, which means they're like long chains and long units that are simple sugars making up those chains. So like we can break every carbohydrate that we eat, we can break down into a monosaccharide or a type of sugar.
So the complex carbs are the ones that people would say are like more preferable, more preferred than your, I don't know, what are they called? Like short chain? Simple sugars, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's what they're referring to. The reason that is because starches and fiber, for example, like think of it like a long chain, I guess. And so we can't absorb the whole chain. We have to break it into individual links before we can absorb it. So if you're eating like a teaspoon of sugar, they're already broken up into the individual links. And so we can absorb it quickly, and it makes our blood sugar spike super fast. Which doesn't feel great because when our blood sugar spikes super fast, it also drops super fast. And so those like big blood sugar fluctuations, I'm moving my finger up and down and like big spikes. Those big blood sugar fluctuations can damage our vessels and have negative impacts on like our cardiovascular health, impact for diabetes, etc. But the complex carbohydrates like starches and fiber, we have to have enzymes in our digestive tract to break them apart. And so that work takes a little bit longer. And so our blood sugar doesn't spike as quickly. It like breaks apart slowly as it moves through our digestive tract. And so our blood sugar doesn't get these like big spikes. It gets these slow waves and dips, and that feels better for us and is also better for our vascular health.
So is this like when people always say, oh, you're drinking apple juice versus eating an actual apple? Like whenever I try and explain that to people, it's like the juice, is it already broken down? Like it's the same kind of thing, right? Whereas the apple has like the peel and the fiber, and so your body is working to break that down.
Exactly. So apple juice would spike our blood sugar really quickly, which is useful for some people, like for example, with type 1 diabetes. If a kiddo has low blood sugar, like they need that apple juice. So I don't want to like demonize juice across the board because it's useful for some people, but like a smoothie, for example, you're putting the whole apple in, so you're still getting the fiber, and that helps minimize those blood sugar peaks. Also, when we strip the fiber is like a sponge, and it holds on to all the other stuff in food. So we're losing a ton of other like minerals and nutrients, which also may be helpful for blood sugar regulation and other things in our body. So if we don't get rid of that fiber, we're getting way more of like an awesome nutrient boost from that food, which is why I advocate as much as possible for smoothies over juice. First, let's talk about the juice versus the soda. So yes, while the sugar content can be similar, the sugar in juice is, so both of them are coming from fructose, because fructose is fruit sugar, and the sugar in soda is high fructose corn syrup, and the sugar in juice is just fructose, but it's still, fructose content. But there's a lot of other added nutrients in the juice. And in some juice also has pulp, which is also beneficial. So while the sugar content is comparable, we may be getting like a ton of vitamin C in juice, for example, which can like help with iron absorption in kids who have anemia or in vegetarian kids. And juice also may be the only way that some families have access to fresh fruit, especially in like food deserts, or like low-income families, or maybe they're like getting their food from a food bank and there's no fruit this week, but there's orange juice. So like there's definitely differences and nuances in there, and there's a difference between juice and soda. Now, is juice necessary for any child's diet? Absolutely not. It is not necessary. You don't have to serve your kid juice, but like in schools, for example, sometimes the only fruits that schools can afford in a school lunch is juice, and it is what it is. But now for the pancakes versus cake, that's just a matter of, like you said, societal perception. Like, we just think this is breakfast food and that's okay. So there really isn't a difference there.